Hello, I'm the Short Gal, and this is my show. This show is about learning from those who have overcome similar challenges to ours. The title is used as a metaphor, as it serves as a way to show everyone that short, tall, big, small, white or black, we all go through the same challenges, and we can all work through them. Episode 9, Challenge. Mastering the art of traveling for business. Thoughts from the Short Gal and an experienced traveler. Hello everyone, I skipped a week for the first time in Short Gal history, and that is because I was on a business trip. Part of my daytime job includes traveling. My line of business is video production, public relations, and marketing communications. So this takes me to different places, mostly within the US. I average about 70 to 90 days away from home a year, which is nothing compared to some experienced travelers I know. This doesn't include vacation time. I started traveling for work in 2010, and it's funny, but when I was hired to my current position, the first question my former boss asked was if I had a passport. My flight was immediately booked to Halifax, Nova Scotia in Canada, and I traveled all day on my birthday, so I will never forget this. My longest business trip was an entire month to film a mini documentary. I cannot remember the number of cities we went to, but it was something like 10, from airport to airport, hotel to hotel, city to city. For those who travel for work, this is a completely different experience than traveling for pleasure. And when it is frequent, we all learn some hacks and tricks to make the experience more tolerable and enjoyable. Most people think that traveling for business is, in and of itself, fun and games. But the truth is that it isn't, and it's exhausting, and it requires that the person is calm and centered, as there are a lot of unexpected situations that go from delayed flights to accidents on the job, etc. Planning for a business trip is different, and over the years, I've put in place some systems that have helped me be prepared for my business trips. So here goes. Number 1, I have my own packing list on Excel. If I can stick to my list, I will ensure that I won't leave anything of importance behind. I add my clothes for the trip on that Excel sheet, which are most of the times pantsuits. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I wear pantsuits all the time. This is the most comfortable attire since I have a corporate job, but I often have to set up a camera or get in a small space to shoot, so I don't wear dresses or skirts for this reason when I travel for work. Also, because I know I will be on my feet for hours, I wear really comfortable Oxford shoes with a little bit of a pump to give me a couple of extra inches. There's no way I will wear stilettos or high heels when I'm traveling. Number 2, I try as much as I can to just bring my carry-on bag and backpack. But if I'm carrying video equipment, which includes tripods or lights, etc., I have to check in bags. There's no way around it. I bundle clothes. This has been a wonderful discovery and one that saves space and prevents extra wrinkles. I'll add a link to my show notes so that you can see that. Number 3, just like the movie Up in the Air, I use what my hotel provides in terms of toiletries and bring those that are special for personal care. For example, I have a face moisturizer that I cannot replace, but I'll use the hotel shampoo. Number 4, I generally try to be in and out of cities and favor sleeping in my own bed over anything. For this reason, I usually book the earliest, most direct flight the same morning of the shoot, or I also take a red-eye overnight flight when they are available, unless there is a pre-production planning meeting the day before. Number 5, if I feel safe, I'll fall asleep on the plane. I've traveled next to strange and questionable characters, that's why I say if I feel safe. I also prefer the aisle seat, and then the middle seat. I prefer the front of the plane to the back. I get nervous during turbulence, and I think you feel the bumps less when you're closer to the front. So if there is an aisle seat in the back or a middle seat in, say, rows 10 to 15, I'll go with a middle seat. Number 6, if you're going to be traveling a lot, get on some sort of loyalty program. Being able to upgrade or use the airport lounge VIP rooms brings a lot of comfort to your travel experience. I don't endorse any programs or airlines, but I do have my favorites, starting with Southwest, Delta, American, and United in that order. Number 7, sign up for TSA PreCheck or Global Entry. Trust me, these are worth every dollar spent. Number 8, I try to meditate on flights, and I also catch up with work and occasionally read. I say occasionally because this makes me fall asleep. I also write on my journal or make infinite lists. Number 9, I try to stay on my time zone. Where I live, I'm on Eastern Standard Time. And since most of my trips are about 3 to 10 days maximum, I try to stay on my time zone. This is particularly helpful going to Pacific time. I feel I get 3 extra hours in the morning to do other things. Number 10. I can somewhat keep a routine when I travel without a team. I go to work and often stay in my hotel. I'm not super adventurous and I don't necessarily explore the cities. I favor normalcy as much as I can because I know that I'll be back to the office soon after I return. Production days are very long. They can average from 12 to 14 hours. Things change when I travel as part of a crew and a team, as there's a certain amount of team building and camaraderie and social events. Number 11. There are ways to eat well while you're traveling, and that involves bringing your own non-perishable food or ordering light meals at restaurants. If I want to feel good and light, I stick to lighter meals and no alcohol. I've traveled while on a diet too, so it is possible, but it's not always the case and it's not always easy. This was my take on business travel. Now let's talk to Tammy Robbins, a colleague who travels for work. Let's take a listen. Hello, everybody. This is the Short Gal, and today I have a very important guest, and that is Tammy Robbins. She is the regional director for PR for Shriners Hospitals for Children. And if you don't know what Shriners Hospitals for Children is, I can send a link. I can actually add it to my show notes, and you can learn more about this wonderful nonprofit of 22 locations. So part of her duties include traveling to the Midwest hospitals for Shriners Hospitals for Children. So we will not discuss her job duties today. We will just get her thoughts on business travel and how that's working for her. So hi, Tammy. How are you?
Good afternoon, Fabiana. I'm doing great today. I just got back from a trip, so I'm enjoying some much needed time at home.
That's great. Well, let's start by asking you, how often do you travel for business?
At the very least once a month, but sometimes, most of the time it's a couple times a month I travel.
And is it mostly within the U.S.?
It's all within the U.S., although there has been a couple times I've gone up to Canada, up to Montreal, but that's rare for me.
Is it mostly air travel or do you drive? What would you say the percentage is?
I do a lot of air travel, but I also do a lot of driving too. Being based in the Midwest, a couple of our Shriners hospitals are located kind of in that weird kind of between mode of you could fly there, you could drive there at 6 and 1, half a dozen the other. And sometimes it's having grown up in the Midwest and driven a lot and enjoying road trips. I like to drive when I can too.
So what are the cities that you normally visit for travel?
I visit Minneapolis. I visit Chicago, Cincinnati, Lexington, Shreveport, Houston, Galveston. I travel to Tampa quite a bit. That's where international headquarters are. And then, sometimes I'll have, odd trips outside of my region for conferences. I've been to California a couple times, Las Vegas for special events, places like that.
Cool. And have you logged your days, the number of days that you've traveled or the number of days that you travel within a year? Or do you have an idea?
You know what? I don't. I've never actually done that. I may be a little bit scared to do that.
I've been logging my days since 2012. I actually started traveling for work in 2010, but in 2012, It just came to my mind that I needed to write down how many days. I average about 70 days a year.
Wow.
Which is not a whole lot. I mean, I know people, and I was talking to some people at the show, at the convention that we just attended, and they travel about 260 days a year, which is crazy.
That's a lot. I would say I'm probably closer to 100. And even before I had this regional job, in my job as a PR director for the Shriners Hospital in St. Louis, there are 21, 22 Shrine chapters that supported our hospital. And so I felt like it was very important for me to travel out to those various chapters and Shine Clubs and stuff that supported us. So I would go, I had a territory that, went from Oklahoma up to Iowa, over to Indiana and down into Kentucky and Tennessee. So Arkansas, that whole kind of circle of an area. So, and that was all road trips.
Wow. So it's probably going to be a good idea for you to start logging those days. It's actually a big accomplishment. That would be cool. So as explained during my intro, business travel requires a different type of planning. So it's very different from vacation travel. So Tammy, tell me a little bit about your planning before a business trip.
Well, the one thing that I really do is I like to pack light. And I think every business traveler does like to do that. It's just, if you can have a carry-on, that just makes, getting in and out of airports easier. So I think probably the first thing I do is I think about, what I'm going to be doing each day that I'm there and what I'll be wearing. And so I try to actually plan my clothing out so that, I don't even really have to, if we're doing something in the evening that my business clothes that I'm wearing are during the day are comfortable enough, and appropriate enough for me to just go out straight that night and not have to bring a change of clothes. So I think that's one thing I do. The biggest thing that I do is try to, really limit, the number of shoes I bring. So a pair of shoes to wear through the airport. And if it's a pair of shoes that I can wear all week, that's great because I don't have to have any shoes in my suitcase. But if I have to bring some high heels, I don't like to wear high heels walking through the airport.
Right. And it's not recommended either in case of an emergency.
Right. So, if I've got to wear high heels to work, then, I pack a pair that I can wear with every outfit, which is usually a pair of black high heels.
Oh, that's good. That's a great idea, especially for females traveling for work. I think it's easier for a male to travel for work, a couple of shirts and the same tie and pants. Yeah. But if you're comfortable with wearing the same pair of heels and having another pair of shoes that is more comfortable is the way to go, I think. Yeah. If people are comfortable. Although I've known people that just packed one entire suitcase with shoes. Oh. And that's
heavy,
incredible.
And I don't even like to pack shoes. If I have a cute pair of flats that work well with a dress and I can wear them through the airport. I mean, I have these shoes that I think are really cute, and some other people may not, but I feel really comfortable and confident with them. They're a pair of golf shoes. And they're black and white. And, they have kind of they're kind of a tuxedo looking shoe. They're real neat. And sometimes I can wear those with dresses and get away with it. I mean, at least I think that I can. Maybe I look silly to other people, but I feel confident in them. So sometimes I won't even pack heels. I'll just wear those shoes all week. They're really great for the airport because they slip on and off and, that's my shoe deal.
Yeah, absolutely. There you have it. I favor comfort over anything. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than limping through the airport with a blister or, and squinched up toes. Ugh.
You've said it. That's definitely the worst. Well, there could be other worst cases. But they don't involve shoes, but we can get into that. And I'll ask you again about your packing tips. Let me go now into typically our favorite travel destinations for work tend to be different than our favorite vacation destinations, whether it is, because of ease of access or, really great airport or et cetera. So what is your favorite city or destination for business travel?
Boy, that's a good question. I've got two. I really like traveling to Tampa. I think that airport is super easy. It's convenient. They're redoing some things now in that airport. And one of the things that I thought was great that I noticed this time as traveling through there is that they have a place where you can sit down. They have workstations where you can, you can plug in and, the free Wi-Fi, all the food's really accessible and easy. And there's a lot of great choices in there. So you don't have to go to just a fast food place. You can get something healthy. That airport's just really easy to get in and out of, and it's comfortable. Their chairs are comfortable that you sit in. I just really like it. My other favorite travel destination, honestly, is a road trip, and that's my road trip to Lexington. Just beautiful scenery through, and people think, Illinois flat and boring, but I grew up in Illinois, and there's beautiful scenery in Illinois with the fields growing, and going through southern Indiana. It's really hilly. You come across the Ohio River into Louisville, Kentucky, and Kentucky's just a beautiful state to travel through. And there's always something that I want to stop and do, either on the way there or on the way back. There's the Bourbon Trail, and so many scenic places to see, thoroughbred farms and things like that. And then when I go to Lexington, I actually stay with a friend of mine rather than a hotel. And so that's a place where I can kind of have a normal trip, not be eating at restaurants the whole time. And, we can make our own food and visit with a good friend and feel at home. So that's another one of my favorite trips.
That makes it that much easier. Well, let me ask you about specifically when you go to these cities for work. Do you typically stay a day to explore the city, or are you the kind of person that goes in and out, except for your trip to Lexington, but to other places? Are you pretty much in and out, or you at least take a half a day to do something?
It depends. Not all the time. A lot of times I'm in and out because I'm ready to get back home. But there are a few places where I'll take an extra half day or stay an extra. And that's usually in those towns where I have a good friend and, I want to spend time. It's not so much about seeing the sights for me, because a lot of times I get to see those sights coming in and out of the city, or if there's an event that we're having at that hospital, usually I get to see stuff, or somebody will take me around. But for me, it's about spending time with people that I know. So that's really the reason I would stay an extra day or two, is about my friends and family across the country.
Wonderful. And we build new routines on the road, and that are different from what we do at home. So what is your routine when you're traveling for work?
I don't even know. I think that's the one thing that I've had a hard time establishing is my routine when I'm out. Because there are many times, when I first started doing this traveling, I was, really working to get to know the staff of those hospitals better. I mean, we all knew each other, but I wanted to establish a closer relationship with them. So there's been a lot of going out, taking them out to dinner, and so that to me is that ends up being the routine on the road. So for me, sometimes it feels like an unhealthy routine, because you work all day, and then as soon as we are done working, we hop in a car and we head somewhere to get a couple drinks and have a nice dinner, which ends up being heavy food and that sort of thing. So I'm getting to the point now where I feel like I need to incorporate some sort of exercise or something into my travel, but it makes me so tired that, honestly, and that those nice hotel beds and you have it all to yourself. And all my dogs there, my husband to share the bed with, and the room's so cool and crisp. And sometimes I spend a lot of time sleeping as much as I possibly can when I'm on a trip, which is terrible. It's lazy.
No, it's not. And I think you have to listen to your body. If you're tired, you gotta get some rest. But
I just get tired and really super dehydrated. So, I probably drink more water when I'm on a work trip than I do when I'm at home, just because I don't know what it is, but I just get incredibly dehydrated, which makes me tired.
That's important. It's usually air travel who do that to you. Mm-hmm. They say that you're supposed to drink, I guess 12 ounces per hour that you are on a plane, which I never do. And I always end up dehydrated.
I always drink a big Gatorade or Powerade on the way to the airport, just because I think sometimes water doesn't completely do it for me. Mm-hmm. So a big Gatorade or Powerade before I get on the plane, and I feel better when I get off the plane.
Got it. Yeah, that's
or
really
like
important.
Airborne or something with the vitamins in it.
Right. Do you sleep on planes by any chance?
Yeah, I didn't used to, but I can do it now. I can do it now. especially if it's a late flight or if it's been a super long trip. A lot of times I'm just so geared up from on the way there. It's always on the way home that I sleep. I can't sleep on the way there because I'm so geared up about and excited about what it is that I'm going to do and thinking about, my plans for the week. But on the way back, I typically end up sleeping a little bit, nodding off. It's not like a good deep sleep. It's a nod off. So.
Yeah, I find myself meditating more and more now on air travel. And also, I always sleep on planes. If I feel safe with the person or the people who are next to me, I will fall asleep within minutes.
Yeah, I like the window seat, and I think most people don't. But boy, when I get that window seat and I can lean up against the wall of the aircraft, that's what I'm going to start doing. Meditating more. I think that's a great idea, Fabiana. Because I find myself, glued to a screen the entire time. Because I don't bring a book with me. I bring a Kindle, so I have it's not an extra weight of a book. It's lightweight, but you're staring at a screen the whole time, or watching whatever TV shows that you can get on the free Wi-Fi on the plane or whatever. I noticed that this time I'm like, I'm just tired of staring at a screen. I have enough screen time in my life. So I'm going to do that meditation thing. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, you don't have to do it for too long. 20 minutes max, and that will relax your mind and perhaps put you to sleep too. So, But yeah, there's so much that happens at airports, on flights, at hotels, and etc. So I don't know if you can tell us maybe one of your most memorable stories from any of your trips for work. Maybe an interesting coincidence or an embarrassing moment or something that you remember.
I've had some fun coincidences and run into people in airports that you hadn't expected, or people from your town, and those are always pretty cool. But the one that stands out the most for me is, and it sort of embodies my philosophy of traveling, and that is to stay calm and centered, because it's very easy to get frustrated in a TSA line, or to get frustrated in a line at Starbucks, or, and I always fly Southwest, and lining up to get on and the cattle call, and then, all the pre-boarders and how long it takes to get on the plane. And, there's so many different things being crammed in with a bunch of people that you don't know. It's really easy to start to have anger in your heart toward other people. And so I always try to remember that, we're all trying to go somewhere. We're all trying to do something, and everybody is a nice person. Everybody is deep down a nice and good person. So I was on a flight back from Los Angeles for a little conference out there to St. Louis. And it was going to be, it was a long flight. And it was a late afternoon flight. And this lady got on the plane next to me. And I think I might have even had a middle seat, which was not good. And she sat down next to me, and she was just fit to be tied. And I think irrationally so. She was just angry and I remember at one point we're taking off, and, people are talking, and the people behind us were coming back from a vacation and had a lot to talk about, and, having this nice conversation. And she just was like, would you people shut up?
Oh.
And all around, everybody starts getting tense, because you don't want to confront somebody in that situation, because you're stuck in a metal tube with them hurtling at 30,000 feet above the ground. So, everybody kind of takes that sort of, what do we do? What do we do? Just ignore it. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I was done with my conference, so I ordered a drink, and I had gotten a double, so I didn't have to ask him to come back again. And she ordered a drink as well. And I realized that was probably a mistake for her, because she had already been drinking. So she started getting angry with people and, just shouting things out. And I, said, hey, let's calm down a little bit. Everybody's, doing that whole calm and center thing with her. And she's like, well, and she was not getting it. So I just started asking her questions. I just started asking her, so what are you going to St. Louis for? And she's like, oh, I'm going to see my kids and my grandkids. Oh, and I just started asking her all kinds of questions about herself to get her to talk about herself and kind of keep her mind off of things. And she talked for quite a while and calmed down and eventually fell asleep. And I could see the grateful looks of people everywhere. And I did not get charged for my drink either. They gave me that drink.
Wow. Well, they were paying attention, certainly, that you were the one who actually took the time to calm her down. Wow.
I just, I was getting I could feel myself building up in anger. And I just really I was feeling incredibly angry, and I could feel the resentment building. And I thought to myself, I can spend 3 to 4 hours on this plane being angry and resentful, or I can try to find a way to have some kindness and show some kindness. And usually when you show other folks kindness, they show it in return. It doesn't always happen, but it certainly worked in that instance. And so whenever even this last time that I flew, I was really angry because there was only one line open in TSA and there was a huge crowd of people trying to get through. And I'm like, come on, open up another line. And I'm like, Tammy, don't say those things out loud. Just smile and be calm. And, that will make it all better for me to go through there. It makes it easier. The angrier you get, the harder you make it on yourself. So,
right. Great advice on that. And Southwest, listen to that. You definitely you want to have Tammy on your flights for sure.
I love Southwest. That's I pretty much, if they don't fly there, I don't go there. So
I like them too, and I obviously am not endorsed by any airlines, but right. But that's definitely at the top of my list. They don't, like you said, they don't fly everywhere. Great. Well, just to kind of wrap up, and thank you again for accepting this invitation to be part of this interview. But give me your top 3 packing tips. Let's wrap up with some advice.
All right. Anything that is liquid goes in a baggie, so it doesn't explode and get all over my stuff. That's my favorite thing. When I take medicines or drugs that I need to take, or, Advil, over-the-counter stuff. I don't leave home without Advil. I don't leave home without, an antacid. I don't leave home without some sort of sleep aid. I will pack those in baggies or a small pill box too, instead of in their original containers. That saves me space. And then the other thing, my favorite thing that I do is when I'm doing my carry-on and you got to pull out your liquids, I always put that in the outside flap. So that I don't have to open up my whole suitcase while I'm in the TSA line. I just pull it right out of that outside flap. I don't even zip it up half the time. Pull it right out of that outside flap, goes right in the bin with my shoes, and super easy.
Excellent. And how about your top 3 business travel tips, just in general?
You know what? All I do is business travel. I don't travel for personal. Isn't that sad? I travel so much for personal. I don't want to go anywhere when it's, or travel so much for business. I don't want to go. I stay home for my vacation.
I dread having to go somewhere. Well, as you know, what I try to do most of the times is just go international and just do something different than my regular business travel. So, but in general, what are your top 3 tips?
Tips. So those are, my first is, and this sounds silly, but my animals miss me while I'm gone. And it sounds kind of kooky and crazy, but when I'm away from home, I like to settle down in the morning and think about them and maybe talk to them in my head a little bit so that I don't miss them so much. And I sort of feel like telepathically they can get that. I know it sounds kind of wacko, but I just try to connect with home in some way in the mornings so that I feel grounded every day. I try very much to keep to my work routine, and if it's a time that I'm working, and try to keep up on my emails while I'm away so I don't have a lot of stuff piled up. And then again, I think staying centered and calm at all times is probably, and I think that goes back to me thinking about home and my dogs and my husband, and sending out good thoughts to them. And then whenever I can FaceTime with them, Rob will do that for me too. He'll FaceTime with me and the dogs.
Nice. Definitely technology allows us to do that now, to feel like we're connected, like we're in the same place.
Yeah.
Well, that was great. And again, thank you, Tammy, for your advice and for sharing your stories with us on business travel. Is there anything that I didn't ask that you'd like to add?
No, I wanted to add that thing about my animals, because I do notice, I know it sounds wacky again, but I got that tip from somebody who worked with animals a lot, and I find that they do better when I center on them every morning. I wanted to make sure to get that in, but I'm looking forward to hearing the full podcast. And
well, everybody has their own way of doing things, and we can learn from people in general who can give us advice on what they're doing. But again, thank you, and I guess I will be in touch with you pretty soon.
Yeah, we'll see each other soon. You're taking a trip here to St. Louis. So
yes, I'll be doing that in August. And before that, I am actually going to be taking a vacation trip, and which will be incredibly different from any business travel. I do a lot more planning for my business trips than I do for pleasure. It's, I just let everything happen and play it by ear when it's just vacation.
Yeah, I think I'm the same way too. I have another trip coming up in between your visit. I'm going on a bus trip with a bunch of patients and families across the state of Missouri into Kansas, halfway into Kansas, for a hospital experience we're providing to football players of the Kansas Shrine Bowl. So that's a completely different type of trip to plan for.
Yeah, I bet it is. And having to take into consideration, all those kids and keeping them entertained. And that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, one thing we learned early on is that, after a busy day traveling and a busy, 8-hour day of, public speaking, you think kids are going to be tired and wiped out. And no, they need something to do in the evening. And you're like, no, God, let's go to sleep.
They're not toddlers anymore. Yeah, they talk. They want to do things, and no, but they're fun, and I bet that trip is going to be a whole lot of fun.
I love it. I look forward to it every year. You think being on a bus for 6 hours is going to be horrible, but it ends up being just a blast with the kids, and you get to know the families really well, and that's the rewarding part about this job in particular.
Absolutely. Well, Tammy, I will talk to you soon, and thank you for joining the Short Gal Show.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks. Thank you for listening to our experiences on business travel. There are some things that I didn't cover, such as international travel, which is a lot more complex, and perhaps we'll do this at a later episode. If you have any comments, perhaps you disagree, or your experience is completely different, or perhaps you travel 364 days a year, let me know. I'd like to hear from you. Please leave me a comment and feel free to interact. This is a Short Gal standing tall to challenges. Talk to you next time.